This training video describes how to interpret your oral reading fluency data after students have taken their assessments in Literably. Let's first take a look at the data that can be found on your teacher dashboard on the Fluency tab. In the middle, under Last Assessment, you will see your students' most recent graded assessments, including the name of the text, the words correct per minute score, the accuracy and comprehension scores, and the date of the assessment. You can see here that the last assessment Frodo Baggins took was on a third grade text called Buzz and Bingo in the Starry Sky. Frodo read it at 121 words correct per minute with 99.2% accuracy, and he got 5 out of 5 of the comprehension questions correct. Depending on whether your students have just read decodable or grade level texts, you may see some other types of data on your dashboard. After students take a grade level text, Literably will automatically assign students a new text based on the student's accuracy and comprehension scores on their most recent assessment. Literably uses this leveling table to make this recommendation. And as you can see, the two leveling criteria Literably uses are the accuracy and comprehension scores. If a student scores above 95% accuracy and at least 3 out of 5 in comprehension, or in the green range, Literably will increase the level of the student's next assessment. If the student scores in this yellow range, Literably will keep their next assessment at the same level. If the student struggles on a text and scores in the red range, Literably will recommend a lower level for the student's next assessment. So over here under this next assessment column for Frodo, you will see that Literably has recommended a text at the beginning of 4th grade level for Frodo, based on his results on Buzz and Bingo. Literably will always alternate between fiction and nonfiction each time we assign a new text. However, regardless of what Literably recommends, you can always manually change the next assessment using the pencil icon. The assessments that Literably has automatically assigned will display Rudy the dog in the Assign By column, and the manually assigned assessments will display the teacher's initials. After students take a grade level fluency assessment, Literably will also update their instructional and independent levels. Back on this leveling table, if a student scores in this yellow range, Literably will move their instructional level to the level of their most recent assessment. If they score in this green range, Literably will move their independent level to the level of their most recent assessment. If the instructional level is an estimate and hasn't yet been confirmed, we will display a star next to it, as with Frodo here. What this indicates is that Literably's best guess for Frodo's instructional level is at the beginning of 4th grade. But until he takes an assessment at that level and gets a score back, we can't know for sure. So we display a star to indicate that this is an estimate. If instead of a grade level text, students read a decodable text as their last fluency assessment, the data that you see on your dashboard will be slightly different. Let's take a look at this sample dashboard that contains primarily results from decodable passages. For these types of text, Literably will record the WCPM, accuracy, and comprehension scores for that assessment. Literably will not recommend a next assessment for the student, so it will say none assigned under the next assessment column. Literably will also not give the students an instructional or independent level, so these columns here will be blank, or they will have the levels that had been previously established with grade level texts. When you're ready to have students read another decodable text, you will need to use the pencil icon to manually assign an appropriate decodable passage based on the phonics skills in your scope and sequence. Back on this other teacher dashboard, there are a couple of other icons that you may see. One is the circular arrow next to the student's name. This is a recommendation for the student to reassess, and it will appear if the scores on that student's most recent assessment fell into one of the ranges on the leveling table that has the word reassess. As you can see, this is typically the case if the student did very well or really struggled on an assessment. This is Literably's way of saying that we need more data to better home in on the student's instructional and independent level. So it would be a good idea to have the student take another assessment. To do so, you just need to prompt the student to log back into Literably and read another story. We'll already have selected a new text for the student to read. The student will not receive any notifications from Literably to reassess, so that prompting will need to come from the teacher. Ultimately, though, it's up to you whether or not you want the student to reassess. And if there's a student who was not recommended for reassessment and you feel that they would benefit from taking another Literably assessment and you having that additional data, it's perfectly fine to do so. Within each assessment round in Literably, we encourage you to assess and reassess your students until you feel confident that you found their levels and can make instructional next steps based on the data you have. So one assessment round does not necessarily equal just one assessment per student. Now that we've digested the data on your teacher dashboard, let's take a look at what a graded assessment looks like. To do this, you just need to click on the name of the assessment. So let's take a look at Crouching Tiger, read by Harry Potter. At the top of the assessment, you will always be able to play back the recording and listen to how your student read the text. Underneath that, you will see the scores, which will match what is on your dashboard. Underneath that, you will see a reading record that shows exactly how your student read the text, with notations to indicate the insertions, self-corrections, substitutions, and omissions they made. The double slash here indicates where Literably stopped grading this assessment. For levels at the beginning of kindergarten through the middle of first grade, Literably will grade the first 2 minutes of the recording, and for levels above that, Literably will grade the first 1 minute. So for students reading at those lower levels, this gives them extra time to show what they can do. But regardless of how long Literably grades the recording, you will always be able to play back and listen to the entire recording the student made. Underneath the reading record, you will see the comprehension questions. The blue circles show which answers the student selected, and the correct answer is bold. At the very bottom, you will see the retell response. If the student typed their retell, you'll see it displayed here. If they recorded it, you can play back the recording. As mentioned earlier in the student assessment experience training video, the retell is not graded by Literably, so it is considered optional, but you have the option to score it using this rubric. Back at the top, you can print out this graded assessment, and if you click this secret access link button, you can generate a URL that you can share with another teacher, a speech therapist, a parent, etc., so that they can also access this graded assessment and the recording without having a Literably account. Now that you've seen a single graded assessment, you might be wondering how to find a record of all of your students' assessments. The best way to do this is to click on the student's name from your main dashboard. As an example, let's click on Harry Potter's name. This will take you to a student detail page. Under Fluency, you can see Harry's Fluency Assessment History, containing all Fluency assessments Harry has taken, going back 4 years. You can see the scores on these assessments and click on the assessment to listen to the recording and understand exactly how Harry read the text. Under the unscorable section, you will see a list of assessments that were not able to be graded by Literably for some reason. The most common reasons are too short, meaning the student pressed stop too soon, or some sort of microphone issue that made the recording hard to score accurately. These status messages, along with the recordings of the unscorable assessments, can help you troubleshoot the issue with the student when they reassess. So we recommend checking these unscorable recordings if you're having trouble getting new results for your student. At the bottom of this page, you will see some line graphs that depict your student's progress across the school year in their reading level and fluency rate. At the very bottom, you can see how your student is performing on the comprehension questions based on the Common Core ELA anchor standards. Back at the top of the student detail page, you can print the page or click on Copy Share Link to generate a URL that can be shared with other teachers or parents so that they can also see the student's entire assessment history. By now, you've seen all aspects of the oral reading fluency assessment in Literably, and you're ready to have your students assess. We recommend checking out the Using the Demo Student training video to see how you can demo the assessment process for your students.